What's up, guys? So I'm sure you've already seen the title of this video is step one. Possibly there's a little quotations that say safety next to it, okay? Or safety procedures, let's say. This is kind of the first video of a 4-part series on shaft alignment. Now, the first video is obviously going to be about safety, which is the one you just clicked on. The next part is going to go over cleaning and inspection. Part 3 is going to go over rough alignment and soft foot checking and fixing. And then the final video should be on our precision alignment. And this could be done either with a dial indicator or with a laser, depending on what the kind of equipment you have. My students will be doing both. So we're going to go through that whole process, and we're going to start right now. Like I said, this is the safety video. So I want to start with the PPE. First thing, always want to wear your safety glasses. I'm in the office right now, so I'm gonna keep them up here. It's pretty much a rule anywhere. Wear your safety glasses. Definitely in our shop, it's a big time rule. Another thing is dress appropriately. Let's say you're working on a pump. It's out by the Great Salt Lake, and it's 20 degrees outside, and you don't have a jacket on. Doesn't really sound like a safety thing per se. I mean, I guess you could get hypothermia or something like that. But let's say it's going to slow you way down. It's going to make you rush and cause you to make mistakes. It could cause you to rush and may have an accident. So dress appropriately. Definitely look around on the ground. If the ground's wet or something like that and you could be slip and fall, you want to make sure that, one, if it's something that you can remove the water off the ground, do that. More than likely you don't, kind of control that. But you want to make sure you're wearing the proper shoes. Maybe throw down some salt if it's like ice or something like that. Just make sure you're watching out for those kind of things. Otherwise, I want to talk really quick about hearing protection too. Most of the time, these pumps are in a pump house. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. They're usually small rooms with concrete walls, and there's multiple pumps inside of one location. These buildings can become, easily over 120 decibels, if not a little bit higher. Usually I would suggest wearing double hearing protection if you can. Hopefully your employer or you're providing that for yourself, just to make sure you save your hearing, your hearing, right? But most of the time inside of these pump houses, you might have to realign one of these pumps and one of these motors, and you can shut it off, but there's no chance of shutting off maybe 3 or 4 other ones around it. So what you're going to have to do is, gear up, make sure that you're safe. So the next thing I want to talk about is just checking your surroundings. Now, this will be the area you're working in right here. And if you know anything about the shop so far, this is kind of the most active area in the shop. So there could be a lot happening around here. People are operating cranes, they're trying to move gearboxes around, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're aware of what somebody else might be doing, let alone if you're out in the work environment, let's say. There could be forklifts running, there could be dump truck coming by, there could be all sorts of things like that. You could be exposed to different chemicals. You need to check your surroundings before you get started, just to make sure that you're not going to be exposed to those things, okay? Now, we've already covered lockout tagout at least a few times probably throughout this course, depending on what classes you've already taken. But I want to just cover a few things really quick. First of all, you're going to be the authorized employee in all cases where you're making repairs. I keep repeating that because that's something that's on multiple tests, and you want to make sure you remember, okay? Now, again, if you were an operator, you would be that affected employee. So we're not going to require you to do all the procedure where you go around and tell everybody you're going to be working on a pump or what repairs are going to be made. But we do want to start practicing our lockout tagout, just putting on the locks, kind of that kind of stuff, making sure that it's going on and off, things like that. And you're going to notice we're going to have these disconnect boxes located all over the shop on different types of pieces of equipment. This one, I believe, is for I don't believe, I know it's right there, is for our smaller pump and motor assembly, that Gould pump that should be sitting right outside the classroom. You want to make sure that you have it locked just like this. But you notice the off switch, or the on and off switch, is down, and there's a lock on it without a key in it, okay? So before you begin to do anything on this motor, you need to make sure you lock it out. Remember, these motors are going to have a lot of voltage going to them, like roughly 480 volts or possibly a little bit lower than that. But we just want to make sure that we're never going to become in contact with that kind of thing, okay? So take the time, look around, make sure that you got the lockout or the disconnect on. And if there's anything else that needs to be turned off, make sure you get that too, such as with the pump. Sometimes there's a lot of flow going to that pump. Maybe you need to actually disconnect the lines. Probably not disconnect the lines, but make sure you turn some valves off or something like that. And then if there's any monitoring systems that you might need to get out of the way, such as automatic greasers, things like that, you might just make sure they get turned off before you begin work, all right? Now, I know you guys aren't gonna do me wrong with your lockout, tagout stuff because I trained you right. But I do wanna remind you, after you've locked out and tagged out your knife switch, I wanna make sure you walk over to the motor, pull this cover off and verify there's no voltage going to it before you begin any work. It's just the last, remember it's that last step to make sure that you're safe, all right? One last thing I want to go over is how to use the crane. The crane that we're going to be working with is the overhead crane. It's located right there, or right in the middle of the shop. It's this big blue and yellow thing if you haven't seen it yet. But like I said, main thing I want to talk about is once you get something on that hook, don't be too crazy with it. Make sure that you're gently moving it around. It can get out of control pretty quickly, and it can do that whole pendulum thing, all right? A quick review on the straps, just in case you might be using them for this lab. I definitely think you actually will be. Notice these little pictograms. This one, we're gonna flip it over and we got these two down here. These are different ways that you could use this strap. Look at them again. Now, most of the time I would guess you're gonna use this choker or possibly this basket right here. Main thing I wanna point out is the weight rating right here and right here. Now, notice those weights are drastically different from one to the next. So if you decide to use a choker, just know that you're running about half of what that capacity was. Depending on what you're doing, anything you switch to definitely changes. All right. Otherwise, make sure you inspect your straps and do not pick anything that has any sharp objects. If it does have sharp objects, I want you to grab some sort of softener. It could be a piece of wood, it can be a piece of cardboard, anything like that, just to soften that corner from the straps, and that way it won't wreck it. The reason I grabbed these green and blue nylon straps we got hanging around is because they're probably my favorite. They're easy to get looped around different objects, things like that. You're welcome to try other stuff. I kind of recommend staying away from the chains. I'm just not a big fan of hoisting with chains, mainly because it can ruin something that we're working on or something like that. So be careful. So that concludes the safety video. Just make sure to watch out for all those different areas. Another thing I'd like to bring up is just take your time, do the job right, don't put anybody else in harm's way. Take a second, think through each thing that you're doing, okay? I'm telling you, it's gonna work out better for you in the long run, in your career and everywhere, if you just take it slow and make sure you're doing it right, all right? Good luck, and go ahead and move on to the next step.